who feels that some changes in campaign spending should be implemented is Gilbert Teodoro. He says that some changes have to be made to help fight political dynasties. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Now, to beat a dynasty, you have to pay more. You have to pay more and finance a candidate who is new. And political parties should be allowed with a transparency colatilla to get campaign resources, funding resources, to get donations from donors, just as long as you tell the public who has donated.
Okay, Attorney Cadiz, what do you think of that proposal?
He recognizes the need to address the problem of an even playing field. But again, on the implementation aspect, I have problems with seeing how you can have different kinds of spending limits for different sets of candidates. In the first place, there's a problem in the definition of what dynasties are, who a candidate is representing a dynasty.
And you think that people will get around that rule if there is a specific provision for dynasties?
Exactly. Even now, if you apply, if you say, can you consider Noynoy Aquino as belonging to a dynasty, or even he himself? Does he belong to a political dynasty? And therefore, will he have a different kind of spending cap?
Okay. And for that, you give
I
Mr.
gave
Teodoro
a 1/2 shade.
half shade. Okay. Beckie, you said that Mr. Teodoro has no track record. What are you referring to?
I'm just saying that he wasn't really part of the advocacy for political party development and campaign finance when it was filed in the House. He probably was one of those who supported, but he was not very actively pushing for it. But I really give him credit for thinking about how transparent it could be by that kind of proposition for a reporting system.
Yes.
Because that will make transparent and accountable political officials. If we see how how they're spending their money and from where
You
they
think that's
got,
possible?
I think it should be. I mean, in terms of how we managed to get the bill in the House, it passed third reading. So we wanted it to pass the Senate, but there were some problems in the Senate. So I think there's hope in that way.
Okay, and for that, you give him a grade of?
1/2.
Half a shade.
Yes.
All right. Our next candidate is former President Joseph Estrada, who says that the current spending limit of 10 pesos per voter, which is about 500 million pesos, if I'm correct in my math, is enough. But let's listen to what he has to say about his own expenses.
Siguro ngayon, sa kamukha ko, hindi naman ako nag-aakot ng tao dahil may awareness ng tao sa atin dahil naging artista tayo. Siguro hindi bababa sa 1 bilyon.
1 billion. Does he contradict himself?
Yes. I don't think ex-President Estrada seriously thought about campaign finance issues. Because while he says in one breath that the campaign spending limit of 10 pesos per registered voter is okay.
Which is 500 million.
500 million, but he's at the same time saying that he's ready to spend 1 billion pesos. So I think he's just too happy that he's not spending his money in his campaign.
Okay, and for that you give him a grade of?
Estrada, I gave him a 1/4 shade.
A quarter shade for Mr. Estrada. Beckie, Mr. Estrada has not been spending as much as the top spenders. And true to what he's saying, because he has a name in the movie field, he is well known. What do you think about his statements?
I think it's logical in the sense that because he is well known, he doesn't really need to introduce himself. And he, being a former president, everybody knows him anyway. So he doesn't need to introduce himself in the way that others would.
Right.
But there's incongruity with what he said in terms of the spending limits not being breached, but actually saying that he needs 1 billion. So I have a problem with that because it's not really serious thinking that he did.
Okay, and for that you give him a grade of?
1/4.
1/4, which makes you and Attorney Cadiz the same on that score for former President Estrada. Like Mr. Estrada, our other candidate, Nick Perlas, believes that the spending limit of 10 pesos per candidate is enough. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
Tama yung campaign spending limit. Hindi ko na tinignan kung ano exact yung figure na yon. Ang pagkaalam ko lang, bloated yung ginagastos ng ibang candidate kasi grabe yung gastos na sa advertising.
Okay, an analysis of Mr. Perlas's evaluation of what campaign spending should be. He really hasn't spent that much money, right? Beckie, what do you think of that? You said in some of your statements that Nick Perlas's suggestion is unrealistic.
It's unrealistic in the sense that, considering inflation, I think there should be some studies on how appropriate the limits are. So I'm really very open into really trying to find out what the best is indexed to inflation, what the best figure would be indexed to inflation. But just the same, I really admire him for just spending what he has. So in that way, I think he is able to maximize appearances in the media when there are actual debates being set up by other groups. So being able to do that is positive.
He's been one of the most assiduous candidates attending all of the forums and the debates. I don't think I've seen him absent from any of those. So he's maximizing that. And you gave him a high grade.
Yes, it's 1/2.
Half a shade for Nick Perlas. Mr. Cadiz, what do you think of Nick Perlas?
I gave Mr. Perlas 3/4 shade.
Even higher.
I just admire the fact that he's been advocating campaign finance spending limits, and that to overcome that, as you mentioned, he's been going around the country, attending fora, debates.
Well, just a question from a devil's advocate. Is it because he has no money?
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But the thing is, he's been going around the country really campaigning hard. Probably because he has no money to spend on campaign ads.
So he's doing the next best thing. Well, thank you very much for your grades. After the break, when we'll come back, we'll analyze the stand of the campaign's top spender, Senator Manny Villar, and his critics, Senators Jandy Madrigal and Richard Gordon, as well as the statements of JC de los Reyes, which are up next on the platform.